USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. A team that started out with a couple of bumps has won 4 in a row, and that is St. Cloud State.
And joining us now on USCHO Spotlight, the head coach of St. Cloud State, that's Brett Larson. And Brett, I'll admit that I was maybe starting to write your team off a little bit earlier this season. Not the best start to a year, losses to St. Thomas, to Minnesota State twice, and then to Alaska, but then 4 straight wins in conference play, Miami twice at home, and then pretty impressive sweep last weekend, I thought, on the road at Western Michigan. Tell me what's happened thus far this season, and where you think your team is headed.
Well, I'd say this. I would say we weren't as bad as we thought we might have been after the first 6, and we're probably not as good as we might think we are right now. We got a lot of work to do. Those first 6, we lost a couple of those in 3-on-3 overtime, and I thought we played a really good Saturday night game against Fairbanks. They're a good team, and they ended up beating us. So I think we weren't as bad as our record. But like I said, we feel good coming out of this last weekend, but there's a lot of work we need to do.
I want to get into some of the players on your team because I'm looking at some pretty impressive stats without having seen your team play in person. But Miettinen, senior forward, and then Molinar, both of them 7 goals for Miettinen, 6 for Molinar. These guys seem to be pacing this offense. What do you see? And I guess it's nice to have on a pretty young team to have some guys that can be stable offensively.
Absolutely. It was probably our number one. If we had a concern over the summer of our team and where we were going to get our scoring from, we really liked the team from the net out. We felt Dom Bassey could step into the leading role after sharing time last year. We love our blue line. We were wondering where we were going to get enough scoring from up front. We've got 3 freshman centers playing right now. We knew there were going to be some development there. There's 2 different types of players. One you expect to put up numbers for you, and you need him to do that. That's BD Miettinen. He had a great finish to last year, and we had high expectations for him. And then you're always looking for somebody to surprise you on the upside a little bit. Joe Molinar's been a really good role player for us throughout his career here, but he's really taken his offensive game to another level. You need those surprises for guys to spill some of the scoring that we missed from last year.
When you have a player like Molinar, I want to take him just as an example here, but you've had somebody that's been, probably a 3rd, 4th line type player. You call him a role player. And then as a senior, they jump in. Do you see that coming? Do you sometimes, I've talked to so many coaches about it. Some say you can't teach goal scoring to a player. You either a goal scorer or you're not. But now as a senior, here he is putting the puck in the net. He's probably, handling a lot more ice time than you expected him to. How do you see that coming as a coach?
Well, I guess you don't always see it coming per se. I mean, if Joe would have played the way he played the last 4 years, I'd still be happy with him. He was a big part of our team for sure. But he was a goal scorer in high school. He had that back in the day. And he's always had good hands. I think what the difference has been is Joe had the best summer of his life. He's put on a little more strength. He's got a little bit more pop to his stride. I think he's gained half a step. And I think that's allowed him to create a little bit more space to make more plays in and be rewarded for it. So I think, some players just see this as their last chance. I think he saw it as the last chance to really become the player that he wanted to become at this level. And again, give him the credit because he worked his butt off this summer. And he came in the best shape he's come in. And like I said, he added a little bit of quickness that he was missing in the past. And I think he's being rewarded for it.
Your goaltender, Dominic Bassey, now, as opposed to maybe sharing the time in net, it's his net, it seems. What is that like, putting that type of a demand on a goaltender? He's obviously been there for a while. He's a senior. He's got the experience, but does that put a little bit more pressure on a goaltender?
I think it does. I think he put it on himself because he wanted it. We told him you talk about expectations with guys. Our expectation was, Dom, you've got the most experience. You played big games for us last year. We're going to give you the first opportunity to take the net and not give it back. We've got two young goalies pushing them really hard that we have a lot of confidence in, that if we decide to put them in, we'd be okay with it. But the experience differential, we felt this was the year Don really needed to take a step and become the guy. And I think it took a little time those first couple weekends. His play was inconsistent. But knock on wood, these last 3 weeks now, I think his consistency level has gotten better and better. And that's going to be the key to him. When Dom is on and playing his game, he's as good as anybody. He just needs to level out those ups and downs. And so far, these last couple of weeks, he's done that.
But a recurring theme among coaches we've talked to, and really conversations amongst the staff here at USCHO, is how much harder it is to win these days, and how many games are like the ones you've had, 1-goal games. I'm sure you've seen that, especially in the NCHC, but what kind of things are leading to such tight competitiveness in college hockey these days?
I just think you already said it. There's more parity than ever because of the growth in our sport and our game. I mean, there's good hockey players out there, and there's a lot of them right now, which is a good thing. And that's what we're all excited to see, these new programs coming. Obviously, in our league, we're excited to add Arizona State next year and create even more opportunities. But I think that the growth of our game, especially in the States, obviously Canada's always had the numbers, but it was, boy, we get to go out to Anaheim and recruit players now. I kind of enjoy that. Or you get to go to Dallas, or you get to go to places where you never went to before. And I just think it's creating more and more parity in the league. And these junior leagues are getting better as well. The USHL and the North American League and the leagues up in Canada that we recruit from. And these leagues are all top notch now. There's good coaches at every level there. There's good players at all those levels. And I think that's starting to show in the parity. And I'm sure you guys have a heck of a time trying to pick winners and losers right now, because anybody can beat anybody in college hockey.
Yeah, and speaking about the players, maybe if we think back to 12, 15 years ago with your first stint as an assistant at Minnesota Duluth, fast forwarding to now, what do you see as differences in players that St. Cloud is recruiting compared to recruits you were looking at back then?
Well, I just think the geography is a big part of it, for sure. At being able to go into different areas. I used to kind of joke that I used to have to drive up into Manitoba, and now I get to fly to Phoenix. That's kind of nice. And when we're recruiting a little bit, but other than that, we're still kind of looking for the same type of kid that I was looking for then, and that fits in here into our culture. We do have that little bit of blue collar feel here, for sure. We've got the underdog feel, as wherever we may be ranked in a certain year, we always kind of feel like we're us against the big boys in a way, and you want to knock those kind of big name programs off. And we've always had that little chip over our shoulder. Maybe the kid that always hasn't been the best his whole life, but has had to keep working and grow, and sometimes a late bloomer. We've had that good mix of the right kid, and I'm never going to stop looking for that. I'm going to keep looking for those kids that really care about their team, their teammates, care about the program, are willing to do whatever it takes, love the game, and are good people. So for me, the nice thing as a recruit, whether it was 15 years ago or now, you're looking for those kids that love the game and are good people.
More with Brett Larson in a moment. We're back with St. Cloud State head coach Brett Larson. How about some of the things that you can do with players now? I'm thinking particularly individually with things like video and some of the enhanced tools you have now. How's that made a difference for you?
That's changed a lot, for sure. And I like it. I know as an assistant coach, especially, it just gives you more time with a player. You can bring them into your office. You can watch their shifts on the weekend. And you know what? You might spend part of that time talking about what they did on a Sunday, or what's going on with their family, or how they're doing at school or whatnot. And then you can get into the video part of it. And you can also become a better teacher of the game that way. So I kind of think that video, it's helped on the hockey teaching standpoint, but it gives you more one-on-one time with your players, which I think most coaches will tell you is probably their favorite part of their job is that one-on-one interaction, trying to help these guys become better players.
Brett, I want to get into Minnesota Duluth shortly, but before I do that, I'm just looking at some of your other games this season. And I go back to, obviously, St. Thomas to open the season, Minnesota State, and then Alaska in your non-conference schedule, but then Michigan. and then 2 with Bemidji State. I mean, that's a very interesting and competitive non-conference schedule. I know these schedules are made so far out, but you had to know as a head coach that you were not scheduling cupcakes when you built this non-conference schedule. How do you kind of approach it? And did you know that you were making it as difficult on yourself as you were?
Yeah, well, we're kind of lucky in one way in that, right? Where we typically play our in-state rivals as much as we can that aren't in our league. So we're going to try to play Bemidji and Mankato every year, and now St. Thomas if we can. And now we got not in-state but close with Augustana coming, and then trying to get a Big Ten team on your schedule. That's important to us. But wherever I've been, I've kind of the staff's philosophy has always been we got to get ready for the NCHC, and I'd rather schedule tough teams that are going to prepare us for that. Pairwise, if you can at least come out of that with hopefully a winning record, which isn't always easy, but if you can against really quality teams, it's going to help you down the road too in the pairwise. So it's kind of just been the philosophy of whatever staff I've been a part of, actually, of let's make that schedule tough. Let's make it challenging. Let's challenge our team, and let's try to get better through it and hope we can win some of those games.
This weekend, let's jump into it. Minnesota Duluth will be heading into St. Cloud for 2 games. I think everybody knows Scotty's team is a little bit banged up right now. But you also, having played there, coached there, how competitive things are at that program. I think it's one of those things we talk with Derek Schooley on our Monday podcast sometimes about how it's hard not as a college athlete to not look past an opponent because they might be banged up or they might not be as tough as you think they should be. How do you focus your team for this weekend?
Well, I think the good thing for us is just it's always been such a big rival. It's a big rivalry weekend. The building's going to be full. It's a team we've always respected. We played them 7 times last year, and every time was an absolute battle right till the end. I think our players and I know our staff know what's coming. We're going to take Duluth's best punch. They're going to bring their best. They're going to be really good. Unfortunately, I know what it's like to be a part of the Duluth staff after a weekend that doesn't go your way. It's a tough week, and Scott's going to have those guys prepared, and they're going to be playing their best. So I am under no illusion that it's going to be easy. Our team won't make that mistake either. We're going to be ready for a big rival coming in here, and probably a playoff feel. It's going to have that feel. We want to keep getting better, and we need to keep getting better. And they're obviously going to want to come in and get the taste out of their mouth that they had last weekend and play their best hockey. So I would expect a really fun battle on Friday and Saturday night.
The relationship you have with Scott, does it make this weekend even more fun?
Yeah, it does. We talk probably every other week. We usually don't talk the week we play. And it's one of those things. I just have a ton of respect for him and what he's done there as a coach, but as a person too. But I don't know. It's kind of like your good buddy growing up when you're playing golf against him or you're playing a sport against him. You still want to beat him really bad. And I know, he wants to beat us and we want to beat them. But luckily for me, I also know how good a coach he is. And I know how well his team's going to be prepared this weekend and how good they're going to play. So I got to make sure we're doing the right messaging with our team, the right practices with our team to be ready to match that.
Well, Brett, as I opened this with, I said I was worried about your team early. I like to see it heading in the right direction. I feel good for you, and I'm glad that we got to catch up with you. And we always appreciate the time in your schedule to join us. So thank you so much, and good luck this weekend, the rest of the way.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on too. It means a lot to us here. So thanks for everything you do.
That's St. Cloud State head coach Brett Larson. Jim, there are some teams you see early on and you say they're going to continue to get better. And I think one of them's got to be St. Cloud. With 15 underclassmen and 3 freshman centermen on the squad, you need a little time to get your college legs under you and realize you're not in juniors anymore. And with 4 in a row and maybe some momentum, maybe the Huskies are turning the corner and heading toward what should be a pretty good season for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was not exaggerating when I said that I was very concerned about this team early. They had a very tough non-conference schedule, maybe more so than I even realized. I don't think people thought that St. Thomas would be that good. And Alaska obviously has surprised a ton of people in terms of their production. And Minnesota State, another team that people thought would have a down year, is a very good team. They've really bought into the culture that's being taught there, despite some big losses. So this was a tough non-conference schedule to start, but this is a St. Cloud team that now they're in league play, have played well. They have a really tough, series coming up against Minnesota Duluth. Excuse me. This is a rivalry series for them. I think that makes it a little bit more fun and enjoyable, as Brett kind of highlighted there down the stretch. But I just see this team, if they can continue to put things going in the right direction. They have been so solid for the last really 4 or 5 years. Really since Brett Larson's been there. I've loved the direction this program is taking. I was worried about taking a step back. I don't think it's there. Now that I hear more about this team and talk to Brett Larson a little bit more, you understand that they have the foundation for this club. They need to gain some experience, and they are doing that every weekend. I don't worry too much about this team now. I think they're going to be there at the end. This is a team that's, going to be in the top 4 of the NCHC, no doubt. They're going to be an NCAA tournament team likely. And if they got to another Frozen Four, I wouldn't be surprised.
You talk about rivalries, and if we look a year down the road, he mentioned Arizona State joining the conference. You're going to have 3-team pods, and it's going to be Minnesota, Duluth, North Dakota, and St. Cloud State as one of those pods. I mean, that's a gauntlet, but it's also one that should be just huge for building some animosity among the teams.
I think it's healthy. I think the way the league is approaching this as a 9-team league, it's, I saw Huskies when they were 9 teams, and they did not take such an approach. They, everybody played each other the same number of times. I like the way that they're doing this. They're geographically spacing out the league, and that one trio that you just mentioned, St. Cloud, Duluth, and North Dakota. I mean, could you imagine 3 programs? I mean, those are, perennially some of the best teams in this league. So you're now putting them all in a little grouping, and they'll play each other more often, and they will create a rivalry among those 3. Those games will be heated. They'll be hard checking. They'll be tougher games. I love the concept that they're going with here. I'm not sure in terms of equality and balanced play, whether this might need to change over some time, because I do believe that you really do have 3 really powerhouses in one little group. But you're still in a league, and you're still playing everybody over the course of the league. You're just seeing these rivals a little bit more often.
One thing that I noted from Brett is that he is a coach that really likes to develop relationships. When we talked about video and one-on-one teaching, he talked about getting to know the whole person. And it seems to me that is really the new breed of coaching, which either older coaches have adapted to or younger coaches have thrived in. I think that probably that's going a long way towards seeing what we're seeing on the ice around the country, not just some of the tangible things like skills and conditioning and so forth.
Listen, all that part's important. You have to have the edge work and developing the skills and still working in the weight room and all of that stuff. But as a couple of coaches pointed out to me this offseason, with the transfer portal as it is, and knowing that you could lose a player just for no good reason at all, if you don't work on building your relationships and work on your communication with every player, not just your top guys, you have to have everybody top to bottom, 25, 27, 29 guys, whatever it is in your locker room. You have to have that relationship built. And if you lose that, that's when suddenly one of those players just says, you know what? I don't get along with the coach. I'm leaving, because you can now. That was not there for decades. And now you can just leave, move somewhere else, and get a better relationship. So if coaches don't work on that and don't develop those interpersonal skills and don't sit down with the players a little bit more often, that I think is when you find those departures, the transfer portal gets a little bit more crowded, and you're looking to fill holes that you didn't think you would have to fill. So I think coaches are embracing that more than they ever had to in the past. And I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think that players want it. Players need it. And I think it improves the overall growth of an individual student athlete.
And it's a big weekend this weekend for St. Cloud State as they host Minnesota Duluth. We thank Brett Larson for stopping by to talk a bit about his Huskies. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and this has been USCHO Spotlight. We'll catch you next time.